Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Offsite channel. It's been some time since the last podcast, but we've all been quite busy. So today we're back with Gary, the Modcoach, who is a big voice in the modular construction arena. Gary, if you could give us an introduction to yourself, that would be fantastic.
Oh, no problem. Started in construction about 35 years ago, and as a manager, GM of a big lumber yard. And then I saw the builders were making a lot of money, so I decided to become a builder. And that lasted a long time. And then we had a housing crash, and I thought, well, that's ridiculous. I have to do something else. So I started working for several modular factories. And then we had another recession, and no one was buying homes. So I decided it's a good time to retire and start writing a blog. And that's how I got started in writing about modular. I had nothing else to do, so might as well write about it. And now it's one of the largest blogs in the world on strictly modular housing. And now I'm branching into more offsite, panelized, and ADUs, tiny houses, everything.
Yeah, it's really good. So looking into the performance of modular in this year, how did you find things this year?
Oh, I hope this isn't a blueprint for next year, because we went way up. Production was jammed. We had no capacity left. Everybody wanted a house, and house prices were rising, and of course the cost of materials was out of sight. Can't get labor. Inflation hit, and then all of a sudden it broke, and now we have some capacity because we're not selling what we used to sell. Uh, but nothing else has changed. We still haven't picked up enough labor to build even what we have on order, and material costs are crazy. And fuel prices, transportation costs are just out of sight. And I think 2023 can't be this bad. I mean, it sounded like we had a really good year, and we did, but it's finishing off mediocre at best. Now, 2023, I think we've all learned from 2022, and I think 2023 is going to be a better, more smooth year. I really believe, at least I hope so. I can't keep up with all the changes that are going on from day to day now.
Yeah, it's just to be well, certainly on this side of the pond in the UK, I think they are expecting a dip in performance and then hopefully an upturn again. But looking at the certain forecasts that are out there, they are expecting a slowdown in the industry, and I just wondered if that's something that you see in 2023 as well, a slight slowdown.
Oh yeah, it's definitely gonna be smoother. The people that entered the modular and offsite industries the last couple of years, uh, they took a hit, but they've learned, and if they survive till Christmas, they're going to be solid next year.
That's good.
That's what I'm hoping for, because they've really gone through a lot of changes in 1 year, and they're good people in both sides of the Atlantic. I mean, everywhere. Uh, and one of the things that didn't surprise me is volume building construction buying into starting to build in England, which really surprised me. It shouldn't, because he already owns Polcom. So I mean, we're getting one of the biggest international companies right here in the U.S. branching out towards you.
Okay.
So that's a good thing.
Yeah, it is. And is there any particular market area where you see that specific growth, or is it just a general sort of good sort of area to be in at the moment?
I think they're all good except for one.
Okay.
Uh, Custom modular houses, which are not, I understand, aren't as big in Europe as they are here in the modular side. But in the US, custom modular ruled everything. And now it's to the point that if you want a custom modular home, there's not a whole lot of factories left that'll build you a custom home. So
Right.
that's one side of modular I think is going to take a serious hit.
Okay. Yeah, I mentioned to you before we came on there. I'd been involved in sort of the vacation lodges and whatnot, but you do see you mentioned on custom. I'm not sure if you do get a lot of custom, but small homes, particularly that are quite popular uh, for modular construction. Um, I think in Australia you see a full house on the back of a truck, going down these dusty roads. But you can also get, a tiny home or whatever as well, and that's quite an interesting aspect of it as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I just did an article. In fact, I did two of them.
All right.
One is about ADUs, auxiliary dwelling units, which are small homes, and tiny homes and container homes, all used for small dwellings. And that whole industry is taking off rapidly in the US.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to see a lot of new manufacturers coming up with new factories, new production lines, all to satisfy this market.
Yeah, we've seen we call them garden rooms over
Yes.
here, and they were quite popular during COVID when people were looking for home office space but didn't have that, so they would
Well,
buy an office for their garden.
yeah, and Airbnb, for one, has decided that they're they're so popular, they're starting their own factory called
Oh, right.
Samara, just building a sm- I don't I don't know what term really encompasses the whole thing. You can't say the industry is tiny. You can't say it's ADU. So I'll just call them small homes.
Yeah,
Um, they're building their own Airbnb rentals and leasing them to people for in their backyards. It's
that's a
a
good idea.
it's a growing business.
That's a good idea.
What do you see with outside of residential? Do you see anything in the future for apartment types or multifamilies types?
Oh yes, with the success of what VBC, Autovol, and others like that, Eris, they really don't want uh, individual houses. They're going for large projects. Some of these are building 100 to 400 modules, all basically all identical, and that's going to be the real key to modular in the next decade. You're going to see a lot of standardization.
So I guess for people that are not in tune with the modular way of thinking, could you give us some advantages of modular versus conventional?
Oh, sure. First of all, a modular is nothing more than a six-sided box. And that six-sided box comes delivered to the job site with all the electrical, all the plumbing, the MEP is done, all interior finishes are completed. Most of the exterior, if it's not joining another module, is complete. So these modules arrive about 80 to 85% complete. And it has never, I will say this unequivocally, it has never snowed inside a factory. It has never rained inside a factory. And you can take that to the bank. If you build outside, which I did for years, snow, rain, wind, um, they're your enemy. And there's a lot of mistakes made when it's blowing and windy outside and raining, but inside it's very, very consistent. Secondly, it's inherently green simply because in a factory they reuse a lot of the material that would normally be thrown in a dumpster and sent to the garbage. They recycle small pieces of wood into bracing. They take pieces of drywall and they recycle it into other places that would work. So when you see a home coming and you look at it and you say, oh, that's just a modular. No, that is a green, sustainable product that has built efficiently in a factory by people doing the same jobs every day and doing them the same way every day. And that's the real key to modular. Like I said, I was a conventional builder for, I don't know, 5, 8 years. And I look now back at what I did, and boy, we made some mistakes. I won't tell you which customers they were, but we made a few mistakes. That doesn't normally happen with modular.
So the quality is much higher. That's very appealing. Can you give us an example? You mentioned recycling and green. Can you give us an example of what that would look like on a job site and your experience versus waste in the facility versus waste on the job site?
This is the easiest one. Just go to a site-built project. I don't care if it's a house or a store, an apartment building. Just go there. Take a look at the dumpsters. They are filled with junk. Then go to a modular factory and see how few dumpsters are actually filled. There's just hardly any. And then go to a modular job site, and there's one of those little dumpsters there. And in most of the stuff that's in that dumpster were things that the builder had to buy somewhere else to finish the home, because that's not unusual. That's the kind of stuff that ends up in a dumpster on a modular site, and it's a very, very small dumpster. But the big dumpsters at the conventional construction sites, they're loaded. And then that just adds to the problem that we're facing now. It's just more stuff in the landfills.
And also adds to the cost that the homeowner or the end user never reaps because it's part of the construction waste.
Oh, yeah. And the other thing is somebody has to pay to haul that stuff out to the landfill, and it's not the builder, it's the customer. He doesn't know it, but he's just paid for 2 big dumpster loads to the landfill.
So moving on from that, we have drilling it a bit further.
So we've got panelized and modular construction. In some minds, these are the same thing. Can you give us a better understanding of the difference between a panelized construction versus a modular construction for our viewers today?
That's actually an easy one. Every modular factory in the world is a panelized factory, but not every panelized factory is a modular. In order to build the 6-sided box, every factory has to build panels. They have to build trusses. They have to build floor systems. But that is only about maybe a third of the factory. Now, in a panelized world, a panelized factory, those walls, trusses, and floor systems are the end of their process. At that point, they're put on a truck, they're shipped to the job site, or in some cases, even a modular factory. But a modular factory ships out modules, completed modules. So, like I said, every modular factory is a panelized factory, but not every panelized factory builds modulars. I don't know if that makes any sense or not. But
yeah, it does. I mean, a lot of the panelized factories as well, they don't have the space that you need to do modular. You know what I
Right.
mean? You need vast space to do modular for all these units that are lined up. Whereas you can do panelized in a more a smaller site. I would say.
Yeah, and panelized factories have a real advantage. Uh, they can be designed from day one to be completely automated with robots and automated tables and saws as part of their there's almost it's almost as if you want to start a panelized factory, you can go to a company and they say, oh yeah, we've already done that 4 or 5 times, we'll just ship you that system. But the modular people, they don't have that luxury yet. uh, Not every modular factory is the same. You would think they would be, but they're not. A good example is there are factories that build their panel or their modules, let's say 13 foot 7 wide. And the next factory might build it in 13.9 wide. And this one over here doesn't build a 13.9 or 13.7. They go right to 15.4. So, I mean, every factory is a little different. And it's one of the things that we need to work on a little bit more. We within the industry don't talk to each other a whole lot.
Yeah, I found when I was doing modular limited, obviously as mentioned, but still transport uh, panelized. You didn't really, that's not really such a thing apart from the length of the panels. But when you're doing modular, you've got to think, right, well, is there any low bridges?
Oh yeah.
How high is it? What's the wagon it's going on? Is it low, is it a low wagon? Is it what is it? You've got to think really. You've really got to think about how this module is going to end up getting to where it needs to be, and planning is very important. So that's a panelized. Yeah, it's good. You have a stack of panels vertically or horizontally. Start fine. Modular, different ball game altogether. That's and then you need to check out the routes and the method of transport and everything else, and protection from the weather as well. If it's open, you have to, because if you bolt the modules together, part of it might be not open. So you have to put polythene down the side, and blah blah, etc., etc. So there's a lot more to consider, especially on the transportation side of things as well.
Well, in the U.S., we are hindered, and I will say this with all sincerity, we are hindered in how we build modulars. Every state in the U.S. adopts a certain code to build with. Then within every local zoning and planning district, usually by county or city, they have the choice of changing. They have to change it to what they consider the better or more strict regulations. So now you have a factory, say in Pennsylvania, which is a big state for modular, and that modular home or modular building is going to say Georgia, which is about 800 miles away. But the problem is maybe Georgia has entirely different codes to build from. So now you have a Pennsylvania factory building for a Georgia builder who requires different codes than what they normally build to. And then they find out that there are certain roads that you can't take a 16-foot on. And it just becomes this humongous nightmare. There are states in the US that you can deliver a single module 24 feet wide. And then there are other states that 15.9 is about the widest you can go. There are states that won't let you take your modules on a truck through their state during the day.
Right.
that has to be shipped there overnight. So there's this big lottery system that you have to get into, and your truck may be sitting there a day or two waiting at some rest area until his number comes up and he can drive through the state at night.
Yeah.
So when you
Yeah.
talk about it, it gets really weird.
So is there any regulations in the US that are changing to be more accommodating for modular, or is there no really any consideration going forward for the acceptance for it? Or is there any building warranty providers, for example, that are particularly accepting of this method? Is there any
Well,
insurers that are particularly
when you
accepting of it, or is it still a big new thing?
when you get into the modular construction side or the commercial modular side, that tends to be a little more standardized. In fact, there's a couple associations that fight for the standardization of commercial. But when you get into the single family, uh, there it gets really tough. One of the New Jersey, for example, that's a state that was wiped out. A lot of it was wiped out during a Hurricane Sandy about 6 years ago. And their regulations, if a site builder went in to build a home, the stack of paperwork would be maybe an inch thick. The stack of paperwork for a modular, which the builder isn't even building, it's being built somewhere else, uh, that can be 6 to 8 inches thick of paperwork just because the zoning people and the code people do not understand what modular is. Even though it's been out there for over 200 years, they still don't know what it is. So there's communication problems in the residential side, but not so much in the commercial because they seem to be getting their act together pretty good.
Okay.
Well, and that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to provide an educational platform to help. We see different things in different regions, and Greg and I have had a relationship for a long time, being on other sides of the pond, and we bounced ideas off each other. And it's just amazing to see how variations, how much different it is, and the way that we do things here in the States versus the way they do things over in the UK. Some of it's mind-boggling, and the autonomy that you spoke of regarding the jurisdictions and the districts and whatnot, it can be pretty broad for those that are only working in one region. Truly don't understand how different it is and how much those regulations hinder off-site production.
Oh, it does hinder. You're absolutely right. But we're working on it. That's the big thing. We're really trying to, as an industry, to do this. Unfortunately, we're sort of outvoted when it comes to the local code official. He may be fairly new. He may be a retired builder. And if he's a retired builder, he looks at somebody who wants to put up a modular and he says, "Oh, that's a mobile home, right?" No. So you have all these problems and you should have them. I mean, my heavens, shows like this are spreading the word, but boy, we need to get more people to follow them.
Yeah.
That's
So talking of problems, we do hear about modular company problems, I would say, and tend to hear about when things don't go great. And it'd be interesting to hear your take on why do they fail? What's the big problem? Is it they don't have the correct professionals in? Is it the liability they take on, the debt that they take on, or the customers don't pay, or what is it that causes these issues?
Well, in my humble opinion, most of the factories that are going out now are new ones that are on the verge of going out They were started by people that had a lot of money, had the idea that automation and uh, robotics will win the day, and they have no experience in actually building product. They have no experience in uh, construction, and they are just dumping millions of dollars into their factories. And then when it comes up to this little bubble we're having right now, their whole program is falling apart because they don't have cash flow, they have poor management, they have no experience in a recession, they have no experience in what the builders want. There are even factories right now being started that the people have no experience in construction, yet they're telling the people they're trying to sell to how to build buildings that those people have been building for 20 years. So there's a tremendous learning curve. Unfortunately, that learning curve costs millions and millions of dollars today. It's not something where somebody could just go out and start it in a garage. No, there's millions of dollars on the line. Prime example of that. I mean, they get all this money in, and when they actually went bankrupt, nobody really knew what they were building. There was nothing substantial being built by them. Some wall panels, but I could build a wall panel factory for a lot less money than $1 billion.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the scale of the problem. It's when it goes wrong in this sector, it goes big wrong, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah, but I'll tell you what, anybody that lives through this, through COVID, through 22, anybody that's been in business that long, they're going to survive because they've learned some really good lessons.
And so, what do you think that? Don't end it on a negative note, clearly. So, what does it take to be successful in the industry? What do you have to be successful?
You need to know the industry. You need to know the players. You need to know what they want. You need to know how to supply it to them. You need to know your cost to the very half a penny. You have to be able to talk with them. And a lot of people that are entering the industry now are talking to their customers. They're not listening to their customers. And without customers, they're going to fail. That's just business. But unfortunately, having success running a shoe store is a lot better than having success with no experience in construction, opening up a modular factory. So if I had to put my finger on one thing that would give you success, hire the best experience you can. And it doesn't matter if your factory's full of robots and you have all the latest automated equipment and you have this wonderful ERP system and you're doing everything, you're buying all the right stuff. If you don't have experienced people that know how the real basics of construction work, you're gonna fail. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts, because the construction industry lives on pennies. This is a very low profit industry. And if you walk into it thinking that you're going to make a fortune, you're wrong. There's an old saying, you know how you end up with $1 million in the construction business? You start with 2. And that's still the name of the game, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that. I do. I mean, I know that you could do the panelized building systems are pretty profitable, but again, it's a lot different. It's a different scale. It's a different offering to modular. Totally is. So,
Well, see, the wall panel or the panelized industry has a huge advantage over modular and manufacturing and everything. Their biggest customers are not John Smith Construction Company. Their biggest customers are the 50 largest or the 100 largest track builders in the country. And the track builders either own their own panelized plants or they buy from huge panelized companies that have factories all over the US. And as long as these track builders are putting up thousands of homes basically every day, the panelized people will always be there to supply them because these track builders do not understand how to go modular. They're just, I don't think there's more than one, maybe two top track builders in the country that have a modular factory.
yeah, they maybe don't see what it's about yet to understand it. So maybe they'll come along one day looking for that. So
Well, then
we'll
then
do
it'll
our
be,
best to try to educate so we can help that along.
yeah. Well, the only problem there is now you have all these panelized plants that are going to be closed and more modular plant. It all boils down to capacity. And right now, wall panels are filling that capacity, that needed capacity. I estimated about 2 years ago, I estimated that just to meet the capacity for our industry to go from 3% of the market to 5% of the market, we would need another 175 factories.
geez, it's quite a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, it's sort of scary.
Yeah.
Because most of the factories can only turn out about 400 to 500 modules a year. And at 3 modules average per living unit, that's only 167, 180 homes. Mm-hmm. That's not a whole lot of living space going out.
No. So, Gary, is there anything on the horizon that you want to speak about yourself? I know that you are editor-in-chief of a magazine that you might want to speak about.
No, I'm pretty. Listen, I'm a what they call a good old country boy. I just observe, and we'll see what happens. And I observe it through 2 blogs and a magazine. Predictions? No, I don't have them. I would probably eat a lot of those predictions, but no, I observe what I see, and I report on that, and I'm hoping that I don't have a whole lot of negative to say in 2023. That's about it for me.
Good. And where can people find you?
Oh, it's easy. You can find me anywhere. Just go to LinkedIn and type in Gary Fleisher, and you'll see all the stuff I do there. I also have 2 blogs that I write. One is called modularhomes.com. The other one is modularhomesource.com. And we just launched a magazine last year called offsitebuilder.com, and you can subscribe to that. So we do quite a lot. And I'm part of a couple of different organizations, and we're just going crazy on observing the industry. So that's what we do. We just talk about it. We're launching some things in the future, and you can invite me back, and we'll talk about that again.
We'll absolutely invite you back. It's been really, really insightful to have someone who observes as much as you do, sharing their observations.
Yeah, and like I said, don't hold me to any of my predictions. I'm hoping that they're the best years we have coming up. I just worry a little bit about it.
But, thank you for being here.
You're quite welcome. Thank you for inviting me. This has been fun.
Good. Well, thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you on the next one, hopefully sooner than the last time. Cheers. Bye-bye now.
Bye now.